So my story is that I had actually read some of the book before I attended your course, and I think one of the big things that the hypnobirthing approach gave me was the confidence that it was a natural approach. I sat on the train actually going from London to Montrose reading the book, and I remember over the course of the journey just totally transforming my thoughts about it, and it was wonderful. I remember reading stories about people having babies, having no interventions at all, and afterwards saying, was it meant to hurt? And that's obviously at one extreme, but it was just lovely to hear that it doesn't have to be some sort of rushed and scary experience, but actually it can be a very simple and positive experience, and so it was lovely just to reframe my mind in that way.
And it is true, isn't it, that if one woman can do it like that, then plainly a woman's body can.
Yes.
So any woman can.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so it was wonderful. I think that was the starting point for me, that it set the foundation that this was something that my body was meant to do and it could do. And that took me through the whole birth, actually, that principle, I think. I think then there were a number of specific things that you gave us. There were obviously the breathing techniques that I used throughout the birth, which were really important and just kept me calm. There were a number of specific things you mentioned about homeopathy that were really helpful in the pregnancy, that you recommended those little kits that give you all the homeopathic remedies, and I've still got my little suitcase upstairs, and it was great for helping me sleep. And then during the birth we used them, and then afterwards I used them as well, so that was fantastic. You also produced a CD during the hypnobirthing course, and I used that during the labour, and that was fantastic. You had lovely music that you used during our course, and I listened to that a lot, and it just took me back to that very relaxed period, and again that just really helped me focus and think this is natural and I'm doing fine.
I think in the lead up to it as well, we actually really liked the affirmations and stuff like that. We had a blackboard downstairs, and we used to just put affirmations on the blackboard every few days, and it was just a kind of a way of getting in kind of tune and just really thinking about things.
And I really liked that because it showed that Matt was really engaged in the process as well. I'd come downstairs, there'd be a new affirmation, I'd think, oh how lovely, here I am, as big as a house, and you're really engaged with this as well, which is really nice. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things I definitely got from it was, you know, just what the role of partners could be. And there's no one specific thing there, there's a whole mass of little things, but understanding that there is a real role for partners here, and you know, it's everything from, you know, around the hospital, or the whole, you know, logistics of where we were going to be and what was going on, just trying to kind of remove that from Susie, just, you know, deal with all that, take any kind of need for you to kind of stress or worry about that or think about that away, and to really, you know, be very positive. So, you know, either the visualizations and stuff in the run-up to the birth, but also kind of during the birth, just, you know, when we were upstairs and Carl on his way, just constantly kind of repeating the affirmations and going through it. And,
you were wonderful.
But it really, I mean, it both felt like a role, but it also felt to me like it was important.
It was very important. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. And it was just so clear, and we'd both done the course, so we both knew what the role was. I think if I'd done the course and I told Matt what his role was, it wouldn't have been nearly the same. In fact, we both
practiced it together as well.
That's right, And the light touch massage was fantastic.
Useful life skill.
Everyone should get taught that at school, I think.
I think it was also really key when we were in hospital or around the hospital, because, you know, it was never a crisis for us, but it wasn't an easy day. It was a very hard day, and you know, when we were there and making a decision about whether to come home, and then we were at home, you know, just making these various decisions is quite tricky. And I think what your course gave us was enough just kind of knowledge and context to say the doctors and the midwives are advising us, but we still need to keep thinking about this ourselves. We need to kind of, you know, stay in control of our own destiny and just kind of really keep thinking through what the options are. And so we weren't, I think, sceptical of the doctors doing the wrong thing at all, but we really wanted to, you know, keep thinking about this ourselves. And I think having kind of many of the examples that you talked about on the course was actually really important to giving us that understanding that we had that role and that we could make those choices as we went along. And without that, we wouldn't have had the confidence to come home, we wouldn't have had the confidence to stay here. You know, just hearing you talk about, you know, water births and home births, and independent midwives was really important, because although we didn't actually pick up on any of that at the time, or we didn't make a decision about it. By the time we got back here and after 2 days of labour, all those things were in our mind, and we then knew what was the right thing to do. I think that was one of the mantras we kept using, is, you know, he'll come when he's ready. And that was very useful, I think, for getting us through, you know, almost 3 days of labour, was, okay, you know, he'll come when he's ready. And I think that was both your kind of body adjusting, but your kind of mind, okay, when I feel safe, when I'm in the right place, this will happen. And I think the hypnobirthing gave us that confidence that, you know, when everything is aligned, it will happen, and not to worry and not to panic that after 2.5 days, actually, you know, he hasn't arrived yet, but for us not to kind of fret or get too concerned about that. It'll happen when he's ready.
But that was really helpful, because when I was in the hospital I was put under quite a lot of pressure to try and progress things, so go for a long walk or do something to make it happen. And I was being sick all the time. I felt awful. The last thing I wanted to do was go for a long walk with my contractions happening all the time. But when you came, you said, just relax, that's the right thing to do. And that was the right thing to do, because when I had a bath, it all started happening. And so I think that was another really important bit of information that you gave us to help him come along.
Actually, you knew, didn't you?
Well, it felt wrong to me to go for a long walk. You're right. But it's hard to, you know, you're being told these things by people in green uniforms, and
Yes.
you assume that they know the right things, but it's not
I do.
true.
I mean, it's very sound advice, but it's sort of general advice, and you're the expert. You have to take responsibility, because if you don't, somebody else will.
I think also different people in the medical establishment have different views. So I think some of the doctors and the midwives were, or some of the midwives were very supportive and very helpful. I think the doctors potentially though just lacked, you know, a kind of a patient understanding. And when they all kind of came in, it really felt like we were being interrogated. And the first thing we just wanted to do was just get them out of the room. Right, we'll talk to the midwife. The midwife's been really supportive. We just want to talk to her. So when the doctor was saying, you know, well, what are we going to do? I don't know, we'll talk to the midwife and we'll let you know.
Because they're wonderful. I mean, in an emergency they save lives, but sometimes you just have to wait, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You get to waiting just a little.